and more particularly, of course, the team that is from this branch of HRM. I'm really grateful to get the chance just to share with us some few nuggets around coaching and mentoring. Bear with me, I know my writing is not very clear. I'm in a transition of between one meeting and another. So maybe Edith, you will help me. I can hear some bit of backgrounds. So that you can.
Yeah, sorry for that.
No problem.
Violet, mute your mic. Violet.
Sorry, Gabriel, for that.
It's okay, not a problem. That's fine. That's okay. That's good. All right. So thank you. I think it's much more of my honor to be in this conversation. I'm speaking to HR professionals, and therefore, really, I'm speaking to the evangelized, to the converted, to most likely people who are already coaches. And therefore, I think this makes it more of a discussion than maybe an one-way instructional kind of an engagement. But maybe for the sake of those that may have joined us and maybe are not within the coaching fraternity, then I'm still going to share some basic things that are fundamental for coaching process. So my name is Gabriel Nyamo. As Edith introduced me, I'm a purpose coach. I know that could be a question that many of us may be asking, what does a purpose coach do? I'm going to attempt maybe to explain that in my around 30 or 40 minutes conversation. So I was invited just to talk a little bit about some basic, my general experiences within the coaching practice, and much more how we can be able to position HR as people who are catalysts for implementing coaching as a management practice within our organizations. And I'm sure amongst us here, there are certified coaches from different backgrounds. I think I can still hear some backgrounds. All right. Okay, great. I know it's almost 5. There are people who are transitioning. That's why maybe there's a lot of disruption. Yeah. All right. So it allow me just to quickly share I'll run through some few slides, but I would like it to make it more of a conversation such that some of us here, who are experienced in coaching can also interject in the context of our conversation to do. And I'm sure most of us are either coaches or you are being coached. And I want to begin there. How many of us are coaches, not coaches, are coaches? Maybe you could get, if maybe you are a coachee, meaning there's somebody who coaches you on any area in life or career or any other area of your life. I'd like you maybe just type a C on the chat. Anybody who is a coachee, meaning there's somebody who works with you, regardless whether it's in marriage, it's in career, it's in just any aspect of life. Could you just type a C on the chat? Are we coaches ourselves, first of all, as HR? Maybe somebody's coaching you on business leadership, on strategy matters, on making decisions, or any other area. I would like just to see some few indications on the chat, or probably maybe we are all coaches ourselves. Maybe none of us is being coached. So kindly, if you are a coachee to maybe that you're enjoying some coaching service from somebody and more of a very intentional coaching relationship, I would love to appreciate. Okay. We try to do both. Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other? Just put on the comment. Are you a coachee or probably there's somebody who's working with you in some particular areas in your life? I would love to appreciate that. Personally, yes. There's somebody who was working on me on some particular areas, and especially that I'm in the business world. So I'm one of them. I can only see one response. So, I'm getting cool. Thank you, Joy. Thank you, Lilian. This must be Zip as a very coach. Wow, awesome. Grace, thank you. Agoy, awesome. All right, that's good. The reason why I'm asking that question is very intentional. Is because I think in my time in the HR practice, and I'm going to give some of this background, whenever you said that you have a coach, it used to be considered like, it's like you are sick. It's like you have a condition. And 10 years back or 15 years back, if you said, I have a coach who is working with something, it's like, I mean, you should be complete by yourself. Why need a coach? And there's a little bit of that stigma even to date, and sometimes you're very unconscious about it. And that's why you find sometimes the coaching uptake is quite a challenge. You may talk to many of those who are practicing it in the market. There's still a little bit of an inertia where people hesitate to actually even have a coach. And now you can imagine now as HR who are supposed to, of course, mainstream coaching in organizations, that's, people are looking at it from a certain negative aspect. Why do I need a coach? I think I know myself. I probably know what I want in life. I know my next career progression. So why do I need somebody, And I think those are some of the things that we are struggling with, even in the coaching practice, because people still have some mindset that coaching is more of, you have a problem. And I think that's one of the demystification, of course, we are trying to do in the practice space, so that people adapt it as a tool for success. In fact, initially I used to say coaching was just an optional thing, but right now it's almost a must-have thing for any success to happen. So that is the conversation I want us to have, and we'll be sharing our own experience as engagers. For the sake of maybe those who may be new, I'm going to try maybe define the coaching aspect and maybe give some perspectives around it, various approaches that people are using out there. And therefore, I know I'm speaking to mostly people who already have an idea of what I'm going to talk about. But because no one is a monopoly of knowledge, I'll be allowing us also to share some of our various experiences in the marketplace. So my name is Gabriel Jamo, as I said. The topic is around coaching and mentoring. I'm a founder of an organization called Purpose Verse, and we are trying to bring a new perspective to coaching, slightly, just an enforcement or an alignment of the coaching process, but in a certain different direction, which we call the purpose-led coaching conversation. And I'm going to maybe talk about that along the way. Then I also read in a company called Inquest Research and Consulting as a Chief Transformation Officer. And my main focus is just to be able to see organizations transform, but also for leadership and us as individuals, just seeing transformation happening in our lives. That's actually my main call in my life. So let me just talk about coaching quickly. I'll just make it more of an exploratory. We all know, of course, and I'm sure this is not the first time that you're getting to this. Coaching is generally an ongoing professional relationship that is ongoing between a coachee and a coach. And it helps produce extraordinary results. I know most of us actually usually engage coaches when you're trying to either turn around your life or your performance and your engagement generally, or maybe making some decisions in your career, both as an individual, but also for organizations. Of course, the coachee, to his side, try to use that relationship to be able to deepen their learning and improve their performance or quality of life. I think these are things that generally we know. And also the same coachee try to focus, the focus of a conversation in terms of the direction you're taking. If you just take an example of somebody who is shifting from one career to another, just being able to get that line of focus that I'm a manager, I want to be a director, or I want to shift from this sector to another sector. But of course, the coach himself tried to contribute through probing and asking questions. I think these are quite more specific things that we know. The interactions help also somebody to create clarity.
Gabriel,
and of course, at the
sorry,
yes,
Gabriel.
please. Yes, please.
Is it possible for you to add your volume or to maybe sit in a position where, because the team is complaining.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I don't know. Am I audible right now? I'll try to hold my microphone close to my mouth.
But you have not taken lunch. You can take a glass of water.
Thank you, thank you. Am I audible now? Sorry for that.
Yes.
I'm trying to see whether there's any other setting I need to make. I'm trying to shout as possible. I don't know whether it's now better. Or maybe it's because of the other background of some attendees. I can hear some few interferences.
The problem is somebody who is on and they're not aware, I think. Those are the ones which are making interferences.
Yeah.
Admin, you can mute.
I think I can see Sadra. Sadra, I think your mic is on. Brian. Kindly let's unmute yourself. Richard, you can hear me yourself? Coach Richie, you can hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you very well. It is somebody else, who is.
Okay. All right. Okay. Fine. Thank you, Edith and Richard, for that. Okay. Good. So I was just trying to explain a bit of background. So when I say these are things that we all know, so I'm not really telling you anything new. That of course, a coaching interaction help provide clarity, maybe for somebody who wants to take an action or make a decision in life. And you can imagine the kind of decisions. In fact, there was a time I was doing an analysis. I was trying to check how many decisions somebody will make in a lifetime. And I think they're in thousands. There's thousands of decisions somebody make in your lifetime. So it helps bring that clarity, moving somebody from just an idea towards maybe converging into a specific action. And I know many people get stuck in that space. It of course accelerates the coachee's progress, but by providing greater focus. We all know that many people don't succeed in life just because they are not focusing. And sometimes they are not aware of even the choices that are around them. And I think that applies to whether you're in business or whether you're in the career space. So, but also we all know that, in the coaching conversation, the coachee kind of get the reality of the ground. Somebody is telling me maybe they want to fly. But let's get the reality. Do you have the wings to fly? You find some of these are being brought also clearly within our coaching relationships. And that helps somebody being able to align and be able to refine their personal goals or professional goals in their own life. Why I'm saying this is because you may see or articulate the case for coaching within these perspectives that you just talked about. That there's a dire need for coaching to be fully mainstream in organizations. And just to help people even become more better version of themselves. I mentioned about the different types of coaching, especially the one that we're bringing currently called the purpose-led coaching. You'll find even before somebody make a decision, you need to know the direction they are taking in their life. And that's why the purpose become very critical, because purpose provides the direction. But when somebody has the clarity of the direction, then it is much more easy to guide somebody on what they want. I usually say you can coach somebody to succeed in the long things. You may want me to coach you to become a CEO from maybe a manager, but probably that's not the purpose for your life. And therefore, what happens is that you will become a CEO, but is that really your purpose? And you might succeed, and therefore you might find people succeeding in their coaching goals, but sometimes the fulfillment from whether what you're doing is actually aligned to your life purpose becomes the biggest conversation. And that's why we do what we call purpose-led coaching. Now, we are coming from somewhere where there are paradigms. In my experience in the frontline leadership, I think I interacted with the coaching process maybe in my last 5 years of practice, and that's back in 2015, maybe from 2010 to 2015, thereabout. And that's the only 5 years in my frontline, meaning when I was in employment. Those are the only 5 years that I can say I interacted with the coaching experience and also institutionalized mentoring hands-on. There before, coaching was quite of considered something that is not within the organizational context of learning. So we used to only hear about coaches in football. And I think most of us could be coming from that kind of line of thought. And as I said earlier, previously coaching used to project some level of weakness and even shame, even to say, I was asking you here, how many of us are coachee? That's where that question was coming from. Because most of us are also, as much as we're HR, we have people who still have refused to adapt coaching. Why? Because there's a bit of a stigma, meaning that you sometimes feel like coaching is showing me I'm weak. And not be able to understand that, of course, being able to appreciate and being aware of the areas of weaknesses is the best kind of a beginning point for success. So, but now we are moving from having coaching as just something that is showcasing that you need something, but to a place where we are saying it's a life critical, meaning if you don't have it, I think there's quite a lot of agabo in life in terms of navigating through success journey. So it's a life critical requirement to succeed. Now, I'm sure we are all people leaders, and therefore one of our desire for any HR is just to see your people succeed, raising new generation of leaders, new generation of supervisors, new generation of managers, and therefore that make it then not an optional thing. So if we are not operationalized coaching, then of course we are missing out on the premium for it. But also in the context of these, this where maybe there was a bit of a tangent between purpose-led coaching and the other coaching process. Sometimes we have coached people to execute things, busy coaching people to do things, to execute, help them succeed in a certain work plan. You have an annual plan, or you have set goals or resolutions, and their coach walk you through the journey, which is more of a to succeed in a transaction kind of. But now we are shifting towards helping people to transform, becoming better version of themselves. And again, I know this is one of our main focus as HR. You want, when you interact with your supervisors, you're able to see the better version of themselves, maybe over 1 year or 2 years. We are now in a place where we are saying leadership is not doing. It's not something that you do. It's something that you become. Now we have a huge focus now on how we can be able to position leadership from a point of view becoming a leader, not you leading. And I know that's a whole paradigm shift, because when I become a leader, of course, I don't have to force it. It will come automatically. I'm automatically able to influence. So it's one thing to coach you to understand the principles of influence, how to impact, but it's another to make you a leader. That means transformative kind of coaching. And that's a huge tangent in the coaching space currently. Initially, coaching used to be outsourced, meaning it was viewed as like something that it's not mainstreamed within the organization. But now we are saying coaching have to be mainstreamed within the normal leadership and manager capability. That means even when you're promoting your supervisors, your leaders, your managers, you're checking whether they have enough capability to coach their employees. So I know in the normal functions of management, which we probably most of us have interacted with, like the 6 functions of management, there's nowhere there was coaching. I think we were just told, to manage implies to organize, to coordinate, supervise, to control those things. There's nowhere where there was a critical aspect about coaching. So you may see that there's a paradigm shift there, even in the management practice, to be able to incorporate that coaching as part of what you call reproducing yourself and being able to procreate within our line of leadership. That means how well I'm able to kind of procreate myself and to have other people. For those who understand the biblical aspect, this is actually what you call discipleship. So there's very thin line between discipleship and coaching. Maybe it's just to give it a tangent. So how do I create somebody else and kind of reproduce, but in a line in terms of a specific context of their needs? So these are wider paradigms that are within the coaching space, and therefore there's a lot of wave and a lot of different changes of styles, methodologies, models that are evolving over a period of time in terms of how we do coaching experiences. Why is it beneficial? I was just looking at the ATD study, which is the Organization for Talent Development. I think they were amplifying around 2 or 3 or 4 aspects in terms of why coaching is very critical to be institutionalized in your organization. One, if you're able to institutionalize it, meaning that it is happening as part of your organizational heartbeat and it's part and parcel of the daily conversation. So when a manager is interacting with their employees, they are coaching, their communication that happens, because largely, I think we all understand this, coaching is almost 95% communication generally, because how you engage a coach is purely through probing, listening, and all those are forms of communication. So to be able to say you are a CEO, you're a director, or you're a HR director or a HR manager, the extent to which you're able to effectively communicate within the organization may depend on your coaching skills capability. So it will help even communicate things, the intentions, help you understand the prevailing environment of your team a bit more vividly and more clearly. And that in turn, when these are communicated, of course, has a chance to increase engagement generally. Because if you improve communication, that means expectations are quite more clear. Employees know what they're supposed to do. And I'm speaking this now from line management, not necessarily from HR. If people have a clarity about what they're supposed to do and they're empowered and guided in the process, then of course you expect there will be engagement that increases. And is this not one of our main headache as HR? I'm sure most of us, this is what we try to measure on a day-to-day basis. How well is our employee engaged on a day-to-day? Do they wake up every day actually discretionary to produce value and impact in their roles? Or they are showing up just to tick a box and go through that, the morning check-in and the afternoon check-out. So that's a critical value proposition, even just to be able to ingrain coaching within the organization. But I think in terms of something that I think we are also keen about is also on the performance management, which then coaching provides a way of improving the skills for performance transfer and being able to, of course, ingrain a performance culture. Because you're coaching for improvement of either performance, productivity, and also impact. But of course, productivity we like measuring separately, where then coaching helps stimulate productivity. And I think you can all, we are just from the, these World Cups, and you can see how, coaching helps even the football players when they are on the pitch, in terms of just being able to stimulate their own engagement and also their productivity. And this is the same thing when it comes to even at organizational level. So you're struggling maybe with productivity and all that, then of course coaching become a very critical proposition for us to implement. So this then means that we don't need to take coaching as like a side hustle. We need to make sure that it is fully ingrained within our organization, such that it is actually part and parcel of talent development. So, but I was also following up some of the research around this area. There are 3 methodologies of adopting coaching in organization. There's what we call peer-to-peer, meaning where you engage people and in a lateral way, they are coaching each other. I know this is not a very popular method in terms of many of the organizations. And only 43% of organizations are using that kind of form of peer-to-peer coaching. I'm not so sure what we're using in our organization, and maybe that's feedback that we need to correct along the way. 46% are using coaching to build performance competency. That means it's ingrained as part of parcel of the current development requirement for every role. I think we all know those 70-10-10, 20-10-10-10, in terms of on-job training, what you do in terms of external training and all that. Only 46% have kind of a whole mainstreamed percentage of engagement that helps, in terms of building competencies for performance improvement. And the way you can test it is just really to go to your competency framework and see, do you have coaching anywhere as part of the organizational coaching competency? Because that's part of the things that we need to do as HR, where then we no longer take it just an optional side hustle kind of an effort, but it should be clearly spelled out in our competency development framework, so that when you're promoting, let's say, a supervisor to become a manager, they know automatically one of their responsibilities actually to coach for performance. Only 46% of organizations are able to demonstrate that. And that tells you there's a lot of work ahead of us to be able to institutionalize coaching in our organization. There's something we call in-the-moment coaching. This is more of ad hoc, and it's kind of on-demand, the on-demand in-the-moment coaching. That means it's only when there's a need for. So it's not necessarily a continuous engagement, but when there's on-demand, in terms of, let's say you're going through a transition, just only within that transition process. Let's say you have hired a new CEO, he has come and introduced new business, direction or new strategy, just getting an entire moment coaching just for that window. So it's not necessarily a January to December thing, but just on call on just in moment. 47% of organizations actually be able to adopt that. So I think in short, you can see none of this is even past 50% mark. And that tells you, I think we have a long way to go to make coaching mainstream within the organization. And maybe I'll be asking a question along the way What are some of the challenges? Because I know most of organizations are already sponsoring, managers to be certified as coaches. What are some of the challenges that maybe you're facing in your organization as you try to institutionalize coaching as a practice, not just as a one-off thing? Maybe on the chat as we continue, because it's also good just to have a feel of what is happening. You could just share on the chat, what are some of the challenges you're facing in the organization? If at all you have already decided to institutionalize coaching, what are some of those things that maybe are hindering impact or making the coaching process not a success? I would love to hear that as just part of our feedback. And I think along the way, we can open up a session where we can be able to co-create and brainstorm some of these emerging issues. But you may notice that people engage coaches in 3 ways: facilitate transition. I think that is what has made it a bit scantily adopted. Why? Because you only engage a coach then when there's a transition. So if there are not transitions, then you surrender yourself. I mean, there's not much of an effort to engage a coach. This is actually, there are some numbers behind this. That means coaching that is being used as kind of a template or a one-off template when there is a specific need. So it is not like a day-to-day thing. And I think that's what we are trying now to make sure at least it's mainstreamed. So that it's not something that you only, it's like taking medicine. And I think I don't know that that's the best illustration to give. Where, of course, you only take Panadol when you're in pain. And I think that's what we need to stop. Where it's not very proactive, it is only a reactive means when there's an issue. So you engage coaching when there's a crisis. So, and that crisis may come in form of, let's say, transition, for example. You're shifting your career. You're making a tough decision in your life. Maybe you're in a different culture. Let's say you're coming from Kenya and going to South Africa. So you need a coach in that transition. So we are kind of treating it as only when maybe there's a crisis, kind of, just maybe for lack of a better words. And I think that has made it a bit not effective, because I don't think coaching should be something that we are only taking when there's a real issue or a crisis. It should be actually like the heartbeat. So we should not take it like a Panadol, where it's only when there's a need. Yes, I know there are those one-off things, but I think it should be treated more as a continuous process. I know it has phases, meaning you may coach me for this year in a particular area. Next year, I'm only transitioning into another area, because if I needed just to become a director and I'm not a director, maybe I don't necessarily need that director coaching anymore, but now I need more maybe business leadership coaching. But it should be, as long as you're in life and you're going through life, coaching should be a continuous process. Some of us take coaching just for body. So you have this brilliant idea and you want just somebody to probe you, to expand your thinking, to challenge your assumptions, like for those especially who are in business, get somebody who just help you soundboard your ideas. It's good, yes, but I think it should be made more of a continuous process. As HR, I know mostly we engage coaches when we identify delaying behaviors. Maybe you find your managers have some toxic behavior, or they are not managing, and therefore you introduce coaches to come and just help them just through that process alone, just to maybe they are remote managing people, and they are not delegating, and therefore maybe you just engage a coach just to help kind of change that behavior. So sometimes if you notice, all these are mostly on demand, meaning when there's a need. But that by that nature, then of course make coaching kind of only something which is kind of only call it when there's a need for it, which is okay, yes, but I think we need to make sure organization-wide it's something that is learning through. That's why the topic today was more, how do you institutionalize? How do you make it a continuous process so that it's not just a one-off thing? I have already seen some comments, some of you saying, of course, one of the hindrances is because it's too expensive. And I align to that very well, because I know it's quite, it has been taken as a very expensive affair. First of all, even to become a coach, I know it's quite very expensive, a lot of investment there. And therefore, so that is also pushed down when you're engaging a coach. It's quite a costly conversation. But I think we currently are focusing on, as organizational leaders, we actually trying to look forward to make an agile approach. So I don't think we really have to get the whole, holistic implementation of coaching. I'm sure we can be able to take it in bite size and see people to get value out of it. I know this is also coming into context of many other dimensions of, how we relate with other faculties of learning, because coaching is not just the only way to learn. I think we've talked about there are many other aspects of learning. So there's the coaching aspect of it, and of course there's the mentoring aspect, which is a bit more inspirational. There's the training, which I know we are mostly used to in the past. There is, of course, managing and supervising, which is the discipline. That has been actually the traditional discipline. There's also facilitational aspects. So coaching is coming in the midst of all these other underlying aspects. And of course, I know in the practice, you may find coaching is being considered more of a short span sprints, engagement or relationship just between a coach and a coach, just with a certain targeted goal. Mentoring is considered more of a bit of long-term kind of, engagement where you have role modeling, and it's a bit more spanning. Sometimes even throughout life, you may have lifetime mentors, but sometimes I think you may not have lifetime coaches. But of course, you'll be able to engage coaching in different phases. A coach during teenage is different from a coach during maybe working experience, and a coach maybe during marriage and all that. So we find coaching is a bit more fragmented. Mentoring has a bit of more long-term, an almost lifetime kind of approach. So we, of course, differentiating this. I know there's another one people call sponsors, which I've not put on my slide there, which is part of the facilitating, because what sponsors do is more they facilitate. They don't just, of course, help you probe and kind of unearth decision-making, but also facilitate a process. Those, we call them sponsors. And sometimes we may have all these mixed up within the organization. I think I'm one of the believers that organizations are sponsors, because we facilitate our people to grow. We had them from university when probably they don't even know or have a direction in their life. But over a period of time, we actually facilitate. We train them, we facilitate we categorize their growth as HR leaders. So this, we can't just say coaching is enough by itself, and therefore it has to be embodied within the wider other related field that you just talked about there. So what makes a coach competent? Of course, ability to set a foundation, meaning currently, especially in the regulated coaching practice or professional coaching practice, there are actually some ethical guidelines, of course, you have to adhere to. And I know for those who have certified, these are things, of course, you go through. Currently, you even have to contract. So if you engage a coach, you have to contract. But this is more of individual-based. Now, I think the question is, when institutionalizing coaching within the organization where managers are coaching, do they really do any contractual agreement? I don't think so. So you may find it's different how you'll do coaching as a kind of a practice out here where you're engaging a professional coach, and how it's being done within an organization. Because within an organization, maybe I'm a manager, I am coaching you. I don't think I really have to enter in that strict nature of contracting and having the agreement. But yes, there could be unwritten agreements, which is, of course, meaning we have a reference point in our relationship just to make it a bit more professional. One of the other competencies, of course, to be able to create a relationship in the process, providing an enabling environment. We sometimes call it the safe space for people to be able to expedite themselves, to be vulnerable, to be able to be themselves in the process, and also being available. That's what we call presence. People being available. And I think this is one of the, I expect somebody will talk about this as a hindrance, because one of the main gaps in my own experience for coaching, especially within organizations, is actually the time aspect. I don't have time to do it. As a manager, they will tell you, I don't have time to do it. So that presence actually lacks. So, I'll give you targets and the goals and maybe just do appraisals, but the time to coach is always a problem within organization. I think I expected that to be one of the hindrances of effective coaching in organization. Of course, the other core competencies around, active reasoning, being able to probe and ask questions. People talk about giving, and also direct communication, because you're using that as a means. The communication is actually almost 90% of the coaching conversation. So you have to be really a coach, a kind of a communication expert to be able to succeed in coaching. Facilitating learning and results, being able to connect between what am I probing that is geared towards improvement of knowledge, learning, but also how I'm able to probe conversation around evaluating results. So if I'm coaching you to succeed in a particular, then I'm able to be more helping you to be able to unearth and evaluate the results that you're attaining. Have you changed behavior? Have you achieved a certain milestone in your maybe goal setting? So that's, of course, come through planning and goal setting, but also managing the process of accountability, which I think is where the rubber meets the road. because both you, the coach and the coachee, of course, you have a responsibility and you have clear deliverables within that relationship. So being able to manage that process, including the offboarding, because we need to know when time is up, where maybe you are kind of offboarding the relationship. That aspect is a critical competence of any coach. So when we're even looking for us to kind of being able to position our managers or supervisors or readers as coaches, then we have to make sure that we're able to have all these dimensions of competencies as a prerequisite. I will not indulge on these aspects here. I think they are more clearly known for most of us in terms of the coaching behaviors, ability to know how to challenge, of course, listening. We use the word clear, and this is for new people who probably have not engaged into these coaching methodologies. We use a method we call the clear, which is the perspective. Being able to challenge, of course, to expand, the thinking, being able to listen. I think we talked about that. Encouraging, because sometimes in the coaching conversation, you may find some things, of course, that a coachee may probably be either been afraid or they are taking a very widely dreading goal. And therefore, sometimes it requires a bit of encouragement, the process, accountability, and also building authentic relationship. It's life-giving. We call it the clear perspective. I really want to indulge on that for now. There's also the lead aspect. I think I also like adopting this in my engagements, where it's, of course, there's a sense of responsibility between you and the coachee, helping them explore. These are different way of being able to approach coaching. So they call it keep it real, embracing the real change. So helping, the coachee being able to, have solutions and actions produced by the coachee, then, of course, holding them accountable and responsible for that. But, of course, overall, it's also just providing more readership aspects, which helps, for me, more biblically biased. So I'll always use biblical context, and this is more the purpose-led dimensions when being able to create standards. Why? Is because you don't want the coach or the coachee, to rely on you in terms of just the frame of knowledge or the frame of options, but you need to point them to a wider, something bigger than yourself, so that they are not setting their goals based on you as an individual. I know this is one of the biggest challenges when it comes to coaching conversation, where, of course, you can also the limitation of the coachee, because they might only think up to the level you're probing them, but being able to refer them for other external resources or systems or worldviews out there help you expand their domain of decision making. Now, what is the case for coaching? We have many methodologies, of course, that are being used, and I'm doing this mainly because probably there could be some of us who are not necessarily within the coaching fraternity, and therefore it's good just to appreciate. You're helping somebody come from a reality, and that reality can be anything. It could be debt, it could be career stagnation, it could be a poor performer. I almost said bad performer. There's no bad performer. Poor performer, you probably could be in a stagnation in terms of career growth, and therefore you're moving somebody from somewhere and you're setting them into a path. A path means a journey, helping them navigate. Notice it's you not walking the journey, them walking the journey, heading towards some specific dream. I know Coach Richie loves talking about dreaming. So helping them move towards, big dreams that they have, big goals that they have set for themselves, but also invoking them in terms of taking specific action and trying to remove indecisiveness, inaction, and all that. And that's generally where coaching comes very handy. Now, I think for you is just to ask yourself them, as a HR, because you're leading organizations, how do you make managers, even before you certify them? Because as I said earlier, there's that limitation of kind of taking coaching as a very expensive process, and therefore we therefore don't invest. I know there are some organizations that have been able to heavily invest, and we have certified a certain percentage of our managers to become certified coaches. So the thing is, of course, to help understand the overall big picture, that the fundamental goal, even for those who are seeking business case to be able to go and pitch to your CEO to support you to kind of ingrain this position, is that you're helping individual go through a process of moving from the current reality of limitations or struggle or strife or pain, even could be even pain, to go to a desired destination which has set goals, has a dream. And I think those dreams could start even from personal dreams in terms of what people want to become in future. But also they could be organizational goals based on performance, based on targets. And that's what we call coaching for performance improvement. Maybe somebody is not performing as a salesperson, you're coaching them to be able to improve that process. I think it's good to have that clarity, even as we build business case with our leadership around why we need to institutionalize coaching. So if you're lacking terminologies and lacking the kind of positioning, I think this then form part of your business case proposition. But of course, you have to put time in it in terms of specific timelines that we put in achieving the desired results and goals. Just running very fast because I have less than 15 minutes to close. There are many coaching models, and I know you may have seen these. They are common knowledge. I mean, this is not something new. You can be able to get online and get a lot of stuff around these. There's some of the ones that I have encountered in my own personal experience. There's one we call the Achieve, which has they assess the current situation, creatively brainstorm to be able to get more options, then hone their goals, meaning, of course, you prioritize. So you may see this as terminology that people use. Honing the goals means just prioritizing, initiate options, evaluate options, validate an action plan, and of course, engage in terms of encourage a momentum to start or break out the inertia. So you hear people talking about, I'm using an Achieve model. It's a simple model, but actually you can contextualize it within the organization. There are those who, of course, use the stepper approach. I've also seen this largely in many organizations, which, of course, to be able to define a subject, the target, set the emotions required to go through the process, build the right perceptions, plan, set a pace in terms of evaluation for milestone, and adopt and act. You may find this is very commonly used, especially when you have going through organizational changes, what we call change management process. So here people talking about, I'm using the stepper approach. I mean, it's also a model. So there are so many models out there. There are people who will use the Oscar, which is mostly outcome-based, define an outcome of what is expected. For those who are very used to what you call the OKRs, this can be something that is also relatable there. So you first start with the outcome that desired, of course, you scale it to a situation of now, and then, of course, create the know-how, what do you require in terms of resources available to be able to execute it, affirm it in terms of taking an action, of course, review what worked, and sometimes people will call that learning and adapting. Then there's the clear, we have already seen this, but now in a different acronym of contracting, listening, exploring, action, and review. I'm just trying to throw these, but we are not going to go into the details of all of them. People use something like the fuel, and I think I'm sure most of us may love that, but it starts from the frame of the conversation, because sometimes coaching needs are very unstructured. You don't know where it's heading to in the beginning. So then, of course, focus on understanding the current situation, explore the desired state, and then lay out success. You may see there's a bit of similarity in almost all of them. Personally, I would say I have a bias in all these methods. There's also what we call the solve, state the problem, observe, risk, verify, and then execute. I think the most popular one is the grow. I think most of us, I know that's what we have used in terms of the setting their goals, getting to explore the reality at heart. What is the current situation? As I said, you want to fly. Do you have the wings? That's the reality. I don't have the wings, so how do you fly? Then start calibrating the options available, and then of what the action is next. Most of us, I know, use. I think I would say I'm a bit biased, especially on the last one. I think that's the one that I'm more biased on the NLP. NLP simply means neuro-linguistic programming. It's more the behavioral modeling aspect of coaching. I think I know in some other models, sometimes they will not embrace the behavior change as part of your focus within the coaching conversation. But I think I'm more strong believer on, neuro-linguistic programming. So that's the one personally I'm more biased towards, because it also involves a little bit of mindset. And I believe that transformation should always begin with a mindset and who you are becoming before even what you achieve. But I think the world is so wide, and this is just to expand our thinking, that the world of coaching is so wide and have many imperatives. Maybe we could mute ourselves kindly as we continue engaging. Good. So could you tell me maybe on the chat as we continue engaging, which method maybe has worked for you in your organization? Just type whether it's the Achieve, the Stepper, the Oscar, the solver, the solve, the grow, and the NLP. Kindly, would you just chat for those maybe who have any form of coaching in your organizations? Kindly just chat, put on the chat. I'd love to know what probably we are using in our various organizations. Which model of coaching maybe have we adapted within our organization? Kindly type on the chat. I want to just see what probably is now getting more popularity within our organization. You may be using multiple combination of these differently based on the sector and industries. Anybody who wants to there, I'm waiting just to see some few chats, then we can continue. Grow. Thank you, Joseph. I know that's very popular across. Grow. Wow. All right. Great. I know that is mostly one of the most popular. Richard, I hope you are not a Lisera for Grow. Code standard. All right. Great. It's like everybody's on Grow. I am waiting to see anybody who is using NLP. I combine both Grow and NLP myself. Grow, thank you, Edith. Any other? I want to see how we're evolving. All right. Grow. Thank you, Nancy. All right. I think, okay, that's quite interesting. That tells you, of course, the field and that what is happening. It's equally a very, very strong coaching model, of course. For those maybe who are using Grow, you may probably borrow a leaf for this. That's for those who probably have not yet used it in terms of the process, which is, of course, focus on setting the reality, the starting date, the options available to make a decision, and of course, in terms of the wrap up on the wheel and the actions to take. I won't indulge on that in the process. There are also those, especially the humanitarian. I don't know how many are in the NGO world. I've also seen a trend on using something, the what, so what, now what. It's kind of also like a methodology. This one, I'm not very used to it. Wow, there's somebody using Solve. Thank you, Eda Chemutai. Wow, interesting. All right. I've seen most people in the non-government, what you call not-for-profit, also having this kind of a methodology. Somebody is typing. That is also at Get. You are typing on my chat here on my screen. All right. Solve. I think that's what you wanted to mean. All right, good. So I've also seen, as I said, I've seen some people using a certain, methodology around the so what, the what. I'm not an expert on that, and therefore I may not be able to give. But I've seen some of my, professional network of some friends using this kind of a method. Maybe I don't know. There's anybody who have used this. I'm not so sure. This one, I'm not an expert. I won't be able to indulge more on it, but I've also seen it quite getting a bit more popularity. But I think it's more of a form of probing on what, and then so what, and then now what. If you check well, there's an action at the end, now what. So if you're asking what happened, and then of course, so what, so that's more of exploring. And then of course, now what becomes more the action. So if you check all the methods, they are all almost the same, depending, regardless of whichever school of thought and maybe you're engaged on. I won't indulge on that again. I want to quickly jump into, when you coach, of course, you'd always get what you may call, of course, approaches. When of course, you get somebody and your organization, maybe you discover that there's raw will. And for those who are saying that maybe the organization is not well warmed up to coaching process, your leadership does not even understand why. I know there's this a proposition we use when it comes to coaching approach to different employees. And this calls for big data now. Why is because if you don't assess the will and you have no data that can help you assess the skill level, then you won't know the approach to use in terms of the skill will matrix. And I think I know I had a talk, it must be last year, if I'm not wrong. We had a talk in this forum for those who attended when you talked about big data and analytics, and maybe Edith, we could do another recap for the same to help HR position into big data. And I know this, for those who attended, I may have shown this slide again, because you cannot use one rule of thumb within our organization for everybody. There are people who are in different level. The will, I call it the warm up, the energy level, are you warmed up? There are people who are high spirited like Coach Richie, you know, you don't even have to tell. I mean, we can almost see it. They are spirited, they have a sense of purpose, they understand their life, and they, you know, they have high will. The way you coach that kind of a person, of course, is different from somebody who is even still warming up, struggling even to understand, why am I even into this process? Why am I being coached for improvement? That means we have to be very data-led or in evidence-based, where then we are able to assess where are our employees in different stages, okay? So if you discover that an employee is high-willed, meaning they have a sense of personal drive, they understand where they are going, and on the other side, their skill is very high, okay? Their skill is very high, definitely that person, you're going to empower them because they are kind of have what it takes. And therefore, your coaching approach is mostly, even your organizational investment, are empowering them. But then when you find somebody has raw will, and then of course that there is very little skill, that means they are struggling even with the skill itself, the competency level, the understanding, then you know that you're going to go direct. Direct is where you are almost instructing. I know this is something that we always avoid in coaching engagement in terms of, you know, going very direct, because you want somebody to explore their own options and make their own independent decisions. But sometimes we have to be agile, meaning we have to adapt coaching styles and approaches depending on how we have profiled people. I do this a lot myself. In the initial stage, I would always try to profile where somebody is. So if I discover you have very high will and probably very low skill, then I'll use the guiding approach at the end of the day. Thank you for those who are sharing the email address. I'm sure Edith is going to, and the IHRM chapter are going to share these slides along the way. So we call this the skill will matrix, and it's a very powerful way of being able to approach coaching in context, so that it's not a one size fit all. There's also another approach, I think, also for those who may have attended also my data analytics trainings. You may have also seen this slide, and I think I'm going to repeat it here in terms of, again, how you're able to allocate the same in terms of expressiveness and assertiveness. So when you have somebody who is very, you know, when you have an assertive approach, which is very highly expressive, and the definition of those assertive is where you actually stick into the same, you know, expectation. So if I wanted you to run the pitch 10 times, I'm assertive in terms of, you know, you have to run 10 times, and you kind of stick into the gun. Expressive is where you're able to tell somebody explicitly. They will give you a checklist, for example. If I'm giving you a checklist, means I'm very expressive. But if it's less expressive, means I'm only giving you a vague idea or a vague generalized approach, but I'm not telling you exactly what to do. So again, this is another approach which we apply based on context, when now you are actually doing the real coaching. And of course, these are some of these, of course, you learn when you're going through the real coaching process. So I will jump some of these things just to wrap up, just to say, which are some of the things that then we need to consider when institutionalizing coaching, because I think that's the topic for today. One is to make sure coaching is part of the organizational competency framework. So coaching as a capability. Let's stop making coaching more of it's kind of a side thing. It's only be done when there's a crisis. I told you the three things that people engage coaches for. Either when they're in transition, when there's outboarding, or probably when there's a change of behavior that maybe have been observed. But to make it as a continuous process. At an individual level, yes, it may be your need basis, but as an organization, it will be like a heartbeat. That's the way you can't stop breathing. You can't stop heartbeat. It should be made sure that at least it should be organization-wide 24/7. So we need to mainstream this. I don't know how many of us in their what you call competency framework, coaching is an imperative there, you know. If it is not mainstream, then it's not going to be done. But then number two, which is very important, is of course measure managers as coaches. Now, maybe for those who are still speaking, Kaido, you could be able to mute yourself, or the host can be able to mute that. We need to measure managers, not as managers, but beyond managers. We need to go beyond managers and start measuring them on coaching. So we actually be measuring them in terms of maybe how many coaching conversations they have had, what level of improvement can we see in performance as a result of coaching. You know, we need to tell managers, you need to know when you're managing. Those are the 6 functions of management, as we talked about earlier, and when you are coaching. So I should be able to measure you when you're setting management KPIs, where I'm able to tell them, out of your coaching engagement within the organization, what level of performance have improved because of coaching, not because of managing, okay? So those are some of the things, of course, you have to become now a bit more intentional to measure the managers as coaches. Why? We all know that what you don't measure and what you don't, you don't reward, it is not done, okay? So for that then to happen, then to mainstream the coaching as a must-have for every manager, that means you have to measure them some KPIs that are more measuring coaching effectiveness of a manager than just the traditional, management KPIs and goals. But then, of course, then afterwards, being able to evaluate coaching. When I started this talk, I already showed you some of the statistics in terms of various, percentage improvement on performance, productivity as a result of coaching. If we are not able to report that, then we are not able then to tell what is the value of coaching. The reason why most of CEO or business leaders, or even for those who are reporting to the boards, may not invest in coaching is because they don't know the impact. But if you're able to relate to them and being able to have very discernible predictive models that are able to tell them, yeah, if we have 80% of our employees at least engage in a coaching experience once a week, twice a month, they are likely to improve their performance and productivity by, let's say, 65%. If you have such kind of very definitive impact reporting as a result of coaching experience, I don't know why a CEO or probably a director would not approve your budget. I don't know why. Most of us is because we are not able to correlate the coaching impact to the business results, what you call the talent outcomes. Then it becomes a very hard thing. It's kind of a cost. It's considered just as a cost area, and therefore, who want to spend the money? We don't know to spend the money. So as CEO, you want just to make sure you only take your $1 where it can, bring more dollars. So question is, what is the impact of coaching in your profit equation? Does it feature anywhere? Now, what that is telling you, then we have to really invest a lot in terms of evaluating, measuring, tracking data. Then we can be able to correlate the coaching impact to the business outcome. How is coaching help us improve customer experience? How is coaching helping us improve profitability? How is it helping us improve leadership pipeline in terms of succession planning? If we can't relate to that, then it becomes very hard to actually justify and build a business case why. So as we go ahead as the catalyst for coaching in our organizations, I think we need to make sure we are able to then showcase the value for it in a very definitive way, meaning evidence-based. Then, of course, finally is recognizing. I don't know for those who are implementing coaching in your annual awards, in your SNAP awards, which happens maybe every week or every Monday or every Friday or every month. How do you then also kind of attach your reward and incentive and recognition systems to recognize coaching as a valued competency? Do you have the best coach of the year within the organization? Because again, you want to model that behavior. So when you don't recognize it, when you don't reward it, there's a tendency of people, of course, they're not taking it serious. But when there's a kind of an attached incentives, attached kind of a recognition at the end of the day, there's a tendency, of course, to people to see this is a worth thing to do. And therefore, of course, they become more intentional to be able to be coaches in the workplace. So I think those are the 4 areas I could say, and I think this is the epitome and the climax of my conversation. Some things we need to do to make sure that this coaching is institutionalized, making it an organizational priority from the top. Because what happens is that, of course, if the CEO is not coaching the directors, then it's very less likely directors will coach managers. It's very less likely managers will coach supervisors. It's very less likely supervisors will coach officers. It's very less likely. So it has to be modeled on top so that then it becomes part and parcel of the organization. So I think I'm almost getting to the end. I think I will not indulge on this evaluation aspect. I think I'll park this maybe for another conversation that we might have along the way. I'm trying to observe time here. I think I was to close by this time. So I'll pause there maybe just to reflect and see some of the chats that have come and maybe some of the questions that may have come through during the conversation today. So allow me just to check through, but also Edith, if you'll be able to pick any things that I might need to respond from the chat, you can also help me. You can see people just sharing the slides. That's okay. I know that to be done.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Okay, so I will take it back to Edith, and then you can be able to close the conversation from there.
Okay, thank you so much, Gabriel. That is amazing, and I'm sure we've learned something. I have a question here from one of the members. Is asking, thank you very much, Gabriel, for the insight, but now where do we start? We've never done this before. Where do we start? What do we need to come up with to start the process?
Right, thank you so much for that respondent. I think the start point is building a business case. And that means, of course, you may need to start by learning, appreciating the value, maybe also being able to see where it has worked and building a business case, because I know the coaching is on a decline, actually. Statistically, globally, especially the last 3 to 4 years, there has been a certain kind of a latent growth, meaning the rate at which it was adopted there before was very high. I know there was a time where you could go from workshop to workshops. Now, currently, you go for these workshops. There's a bit of a decline currently from what I see myself. I could be wrong, maybe depending on the interactions I have, but I've seen a bit of a decline on the quest for it. And when I interrogate, you discover it's because people are not able to quantify the value. So for me, the start point is establishing a business case. And then let's not treat coaching as kind of a generic, you copy paste something. Make it very contextual, meaning it can be contextual to the organization. So you don't have to borrow, go to another organization and just copy paste that model to yours, because that's where we are getting it wrong. When it becomes generic, people don't see value, then it becomes a challenge because people have invested a lot of money and therefore they will be strong. So I would say building and establishing the business case, meaning studying the value, why do we need it, study different approaches, adapt something that works for your organization. That would be a very good start. Of course, attached to that now is, of course, you being able then to also go through a bit of awareness and equipping, meaning achieving even if not the certification, at least being able to also you appreciate the different models. And there's a lot of learning today. I think nobody can say today they cannot access learning. No, everybody can be able to access learning. There's too much content, there's too much knowledge out there you can be able to learn. So first of all, even you being able to equip yourself, because you are the catalyst. So if you're able to equip yourself, then you are able to know even the right narrative to use when you're pitching this to your organization. So I will say those two, but of course, after that then is preparing the organization for it. What you are not prepared for, you'll always abuse or misuse it. Now, if you don't prepare your organization for adopting coaching, coaching can also be abused and can also be misused. So it's a change process. That means you'll have to model the right behavior, the right mindset, so that people have a good objective view about the coaching. As I told you, initially coaching was having a bit of stigma. So when somebody doesn't want to feel like they're in a coaching process, they think it's like you're sick. Nobody wants to be viewed like they need something. And that's a big gap in the coaching conversation. So I think being able to prepare your organization for the coaching process help you make sure you manage change. And I think there's somebody who is asking, how do you jumpstart this change management? So, but overall, as I said, it has also to take a lot of data, as in don't approach it from just, as a hit and learn thing, as a generic approach. Try to get data, be evidence-based, show what can work, correlate between the coaching success and of course the organization success. That way you're able to sell. Because the hardest challenge you have is how do you sell to your CEO that you need to invest in the coaching process. And also finally, as I wind up, is start small. Meaning, like if I was in the frontline business today, what do I do? I will start with my salespeople. Why? If you start with the salespeople and they bring more sales, you are likely to have a win proposition to take it to the other. So don't start with coaching, IT people, the back office, because it may take longer for them to show value. And this is more of a tactic. I'll start with the customer facing, the people who are in the, who can be able to have a quick turnaround. Because if you coach the people and they start selling more, I'm very sure the CEO will be very excited. The board actually will notice because they'll be able to see new top lines coming. So of course I say be smart as a HR leader, be smart. So you can actually be able to pilot it in the most critical functions of your organization in terms of you can get low, quick fix value. With that, then now you can scale. So don't subject the entire organization to a coaching experience. Start small and be able to model that process of time. I think that's the way I would approach it. But of course, every organization is different. You may need to study your organization and come up with a fit for purpose approach, depending on the kind of situation you are in. I hope I have attempted to maybe respond to that.
Wow.
Over back to you.
Yes, Gabriel, and thank you so much. I think this is powerful, and we must call you again and again. There is another person who has requested for your contact. If you can be able to run with their organization to be able to set up the same, and I answered on your behalf and I said yes, and we are going to share the contacts. We don't seem to have any other question on the chat. We don't seem to have any other question on the chat. And as per your explanation, someone was asking, how do we jumpstart this as a change management? How do we jumpstart this as a change management in the organizations?
Agree. I think I may have already alluded to that in a brief when I was saying like don't go the big bang. There's nothing like being a bang approach where you're saying when subject the organization into a coaching process, you are going to play a miss. I would say start small. That's the part I was saying. When you're beginning, try to identify critical roles or critical functions where you can get quick value. If you're able to pilot it from those, highly, possible areas of quick success, it will make your leadership see value. And that's part of building the business case. So I would say from a change management, try start small in a scalable way. But as I said, also, you of course, as the HR, you are the catalyst. Make sure then you also understand the coaching dynamics so that also you have a good narrative of because if you are green, it becomes very difficult for you to be able to sell it. And then finally, evaluate consistently. If you put your management into a coaching process, as I said, try to separate between management and coaching. Set KPIs that are more coaching driven. You are evaluating the effectiveness of a manager as a coach. And that's why you'll find things like, being able to check whether people have been able to procreate themselves. That's a coaching issue. It's a discipleship issue. So beside your normal typical operational KPI, you may need to come up with some other measurement that measure manager as a coach, different from manager as a manager. So if you're able to do that, then it becomes very easy to build a business case and you're able to sell the proposition more easily in your organization.
Wow, thank you then very much. We do not seem to have any other question on the chat. We would like to appreciate you, Gabriel, and I would like to request the members to share their email addresses so that we can be able to share the presentations once it is shared. And we cannot thank you again enough, Gabriel, for the way you've worked with the Institute and also the branch. I know we have a lot to do with you this year, and we shall continue engaging you until we become purposeful in our areas of operations. We appreciate you for the time, the sacrifices that you've made, and we do not take it for granted that you have actually given it your all. Thank you, and all the best. Share your email addresses. We shall make sure that we share what Gabriel is going to share with us. Without wasting more time, I'll request Saverio, you can close for us with a word of prayer.
Shall we together pray? Dear loving Master, we come before thy presence this evening. Thank you for granting us this time for us to go through coaching. We want to thank you for each and every person who joined us in the Nairobi Northeast region for the learning process. Provide with us, be our guide during this evening. and in days to come. And we give thanks in Jesus' name. We believe and pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. And Helen Musalia, thank you so much. We appreciate you for joining us. Thank you, team, and have a good evening, all of you. Thank you. You can say hi, Helen.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Yeah, I had a bit of technical difficulties otherwise, but Gabriel has done a good job of at least teaching us something.
Thank you, Helen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And
Okay.
we appreciate you too. And all the members, have a good evening. Thank you.
So thank
And
you.
bye
Thank you so
bye.
much and be blessed.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.